stuck here. The cops won't bother me. For such a short ride that I did yesterday on the XR, I used up quite a bit of fuel in the tank. I was a little surprised. I think this carb is set up in such a way that it's not really meant for efficiency. It's mainly for power. And I think that's the correct way of making an xr650r fun. It's just tuning it for power. You don't really want to tune these for efficiency. If you want efficiency, you get a xr650l. So one of the things is that I get a lot of people asking me, oh, is this the L version? You know, a lot of people don't know the difference between the xr650l and the xr650r. This is the R version. So a lot of people think that they're related, but they're not. I had a guy ask me, it's like, oh yeah, this is it just got a little bit more horsepower and lighter weight. No, this is an entirely different bike. Actually, Honda made a mistake in calling it a xr650. They really should not have named it that, because it just confuses the very dim-witted people out there that don't know the difference. And a lot of them, there was a guy that he was telling me how great he was, how awesome he was. And I told him, hey, you really need to learn the difference between the L and the R. They're completely different bikes. They're not the same bikes at all. The L, for example, uses different suspension. The L, for example, uses a steel frame. This uses an aluminum frame. The oil on this bike is inside the frame. It's liquid cooled. The L is air cooled. There's like these really big differences. The steering is much sharper on this. The suspension is much better. So it's kind of strange that Honda decided to call the xr650l just the L version and this is the R version, because it just confuses people. I wish they would call this something else, or that xr650l, it should have been something like dr650l, something that's not related to this. This is such a very different bike that there's no point of even doing a comparison. It really does not compare at all with the L. And I used to know a guy that had the L and I had the R. I used to have another version of this bike, and it was kind of funny because we were riding dirt, we were riding dual sports, and mine was also tagged for street riding. And we were both riding off-road in the dirt, and I decided to switch bikes with him. And the thing is, when you switch from an L to an R, you kind of have to be careful, because the person that's going to be switching generally doesn't have a lot of experience. So he dropped my bike a few times, but you know, he came back saying that it was completely different. And it is. When I got on that 650L, it was so heavy, so hard to ride, and we were riding some gnarly stuff, but I was not able to ride that thing in the dirt at all. It was just so unyielding. It just made no sense to me. Like, if you can make a bike like this and make it that good for dual sport, Honda really should have just kept this and just started making it street legal. Of course, you need maybe like a E button, but the thing is, this bike has gotten a little bit of a cult following these days. These bikes are very different, and you can't really compare the L to the R. It would be actually kind of nice to do a head-to-head comparison, because there's so many people that want to see how similar they are, including me. I like to put them through a test. But what you're going to be finding is that the L version of this bike is a much better street dual sport. and it's much more in comparison to the xr650 by Suzuki and the xr650. But the R version, I don't think it has a comparison by Suzuki, and I don't think it has a comparison by Kawasaki. They really do not make or made a bike that compared to this. That's why this bike is in a league of its own. The closest thing that Kawasaki had was the xr650, and I believe that didn't get sold very much. It was not a very popular bike. And as far as Suzuki, they only have the xr650 Thumper, which is a very good bike from what I hear. It's a very good street bike. But, and of course the xr650, but very different, very more touring oriented on the xr650. This is definitely not touring oriented. This bike is meant for off-roading in Baja. It's a desert racer. When you have a desert racer, that means that the bike is going to be extremely reliable to keep and ride on the street. Like, this bike is really not stressed at average speeds at all. And I think that's one of the beauties of this bike. It's just so easy to ride on the street. And you can have a lot of fun with it. You know, up to like 60 miles an hour, this bike is a hoot. And of course, from 70 to like 100 miles an hour, it can cope. And it can do it at high rates of speed and keep it there. That's the reason this bike was so popular for winning Baja races. It was comfortable, it was big, it didn't really move like a motocross bike, it just kind of plowed through the dirt. And it was one of these bikes that's got a lot of street presence. You know, if you ride a little dirt bike, a little dual sport through the streets, you're not going to get the street presence that this thing has. I mean, this thing just is really amazing. I'm always in awe of this bike. But if you're riding, if you're riding dirt bikes and you're learning to ride dirt bikes, this is not the bike for you. This is a very big and heavy and powerful bike, and the style of riding on this bike is very different than the style of riding in a normal motorcycle. On a normal dirt bike, you can kind of pick your lines and kind of finesse things a little bit easier. But the problem with this bike in the dirt is that it is very difficult. I mean, I found that riding this thing on single tracks was like going to the gym. And actually, that's my reasoning for getting this bike again, is that I was in pretty darn good shape riding this thing off-road because, you know, I dropped it quite a bit, so I had to pick it up and start it. Yeah, I'm always amazed when people, they compare this to the xr650l, and I just think it's amazing because, I don't know, I never lusted after a xr650l. It just doesn't happen. Nobody really lusts after like DR650s, but this bike, people do lust after this bike. Jesus, people do want xr650s. And by the way, they are so popular in Europe. In Europe, I think there was a lot of legalization of these bikes because people do enjoy riding these on the road. And here, the only thing that you need to kind of start realizing is that most of these bikes have been dual sported. Most of these bikes are owned by people that really enjoy this displacement. Well guys, that's a little bit about the xr650l and the xr650r. Don't mistake those two. They're very different bikes. And if you actually approach a guy that's got an R version and you kind of assume it's an L, he'll kind of just laugh at you. So don't do it. Alright, Squid, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Jesus, this thing rips.
All we gotta do is show a little class, a little sophistication, and we're in like a dirty shirt.
And that's no problem, Lloyd. We can be classy and sophisticated. Look at the fun bags on that hose hound.